Out in this area of the research center, Warren Roberts has a neat project going on. How you doing, Warren?
Good, Steve.
Welcome to the program. Can you tell me a little bit about your type of research you're doing here?
On this project, Steve, we're working with poultry litter. We're doing, I guess you could call it a form of recycling, trying to have a sustainable program here. We're taking a product, again, poultry litter, that to some extent would be a waste product, might look at it as an environmental contaminant, environmental pollutant, but we're trying to use it as a fertilizer material.
Okay.
There's nothing really new about using animal waste as a fertilizer material, but we're looking at different methods of handling it, different rates, different strategies for using it with vegetable crops.
Okay. Well, what types of crops are you putting it on?
We've worked with a lot of different vegetable crops over the years. We've been doing this study for I think about 9 years.
Okay.
This particular year we're using cantaloupes. I'll be glad to show them to you if you'd like to see them now.
Let's take a look at them.
Okay.
So here are your cantaloupes, Warren?
That's right. These Magnum 45 cantaloupes that we're growing this year. We've grown a lot of different vegetables in this study over the years, Steve. We've grown cucumbers, tomatoes, collards, onions, cabbage, a lot of different things. This year just happens to be cantaloupe.
Cantaloupes.
Yeah.
And the chicken litter is great fertilizer for these plants?
Yeah, you know, of course people have used animal waste products one kind or another for many years. So what our results have shown here is that within a given rate, the poultry litter or synthetic fertilizers will produce just about the same results. So one's about as good as another within the same rate. Okay.
Some example of misuse might be?
Probably the main thing that I can think of, Steve, that would be a problem would be over application, using too much of it. Okay. If a person will take a soil test and determine what levels of nutrients, phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium, and so on, that they'll have in the soil, poultry litter could be a very good fertilizer to use for many, many years. This study here has been going for about 9 years now. We're hoping to keep it going for a lot more years.
Well, that sounds great.
But we'll use soil tests to determine the rate that we think would be appropriate for a given crop, a given soil type, and basically try to follow those recommendations. Of course, in this study, some of our rates were going very high rates just to see what happens if we do purposely put on too much of the poultry litter.
Okay, that's interesting. So for a homeowner who's using chicken litter on their garden, how often would you recommend getting your soil tested?
Probably if I was a homeowner, I'd probably test every 3 or 4 years. If I was a commercial operator where I'm looking at larger fields, I'm looking at the economics behind it, I'd probably go every year.
Every year.
But for my own home garden, I think every 3 or 4 years would probably be adequate.
Okay, and you guys have, you mentioned that you've grown different crops here and you're always rotating your crops, right?
We try to do in this study about what we think that a farmer or a home gardener should do is rotate from one crop to another, one type of crop to another. A lot of our crops have been within the cucurbit family, and we try to go sometimes with a cucurbit, perhaps the cucumbers, or in this case the cantaloupes, and then we'll go back perhaps to a tomato or onion or cabbage or whatever to just try to follow sound practices as far as crop rotation.
Okay. Well, I sure appreciate your time, Warren. You're doing a good job here.
Well, thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.